Okay, before we commence, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the Sublime One, the Undefeated One, the Supreme Buddha. To do this, I would like you all to be upstanding and recite the Namaskar with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. You may now all be seated. Before we commence, before we inaugurate, let's take a few moments to make a firm determination. May the great qualities of all the Arahants, whose every footstep was a blessing to the world, may these qualities seep into my heart and mind, and may they change me to be a better person than I was. May these qualities help me go my path and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. And also, let's not forget that we've been in Sanasara for an infinitely long time. And believe you me, we've not been great people. We weren't always good people. We did many inhumane acts to many other people. And so maybe our path may be hindered because of our acts, of our heinous acts that we've done to the Sotapannas, all the way to Arahats, Anagamis, Arahats, and the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacceka Buddhas, anyone and everyone. So let's take a few moments to ask for their humble forgiveness. May I be forgiven for all the acts I've done. Okay, making such a firm determination, let us begin. It looks like we meet after a long time, right? That was exactly what the Buddha said to the Venerable Dhammaruchi. So, last week, we talked about the story of the Dhammaruchi, the first half, anyway, of a young man who had a well of appetite, a hunger that can never be fulfilled, satiated, who ordained and consumes 500 portions of food in one go. And the Buddha took the Venerable Dhammaruchi to the beach, overlooking the sea, and then shows him a skeleton of a whale called Timtimgal. And as you remember, the Venerable Dhammaruchi started meditating there, became an Arhat. And before the end of that day, went to the monastery. At that moment, the Buddha was preaching the Dharma to a group of monks, and seeing that the Venerable Dhammaruchi had entered, said, "Oh, Dhammaruchi, it seems like we've met after a long time." Then the Venerable Dhammaruchi replied saying, "Yes, Venerable Sir, it's been a long time." Now, this was extremely confusing because about a few hours ago, the Buddha was right next to the Venerable Dhammaruchi. And he was the one who preached the monk the Dharma. But yet, after he became an Arhat, well, these monks didn't know that he became an Arhat, but after he returned from his trip to the ocean, the seaside, the first thing the Buddha says is, "Dhammaruchi, it's been a long time since we've met." And everyone was confused. And obviously, when the Venerable Dhammaruchi replied saying, "Yes, Venerable Sir, it's been a long time," they couldn't understand. They couldn't understand how this worked. The Venerable Dhammaruchi ordained in this temple, lived in this temple, never left this monastery. And yet the Buddha comes and says, "It's been a long time since we've met." It seems like nothing added up. They couldn't put all of it together. So, all the monks went to the Buddha again, worshipped the Buddha and questioned, "Venerable Sir, why did you say that? Why did you say that it's been a long time when about an hour ago you met him? About a few hours ago you preached the Dharma to him. It doesn't make sense." The Buddha replied saying, "Monks, you see, we both weren't talking about this life. We were talking about our previous lives. How in the past we met after a very long time." The monks pleaded the Buddha saying, "Venerable Sir, please tell us the reason." And so the Buddha started to preach about his past life. So, thousands of eons before, at the time of a Buddha called Shemankara, There was a merchant who lived in a kingdom called Shemavati, and the king. The king was called Shema. So this merchant was very religious, was a man who would listen to Dharma very often, was very pure of heart, and he decided to give alms consecutively for 3 months to the Buddha, the Mahasangha, providing them with the 4 necessities: shelter, alms, robes, and medicines. Providing each and every monk with all this. So you can imagine he was a rich merchant. But one day, he thought, this is not enough. What the Buddha has given to me cannot be paid back after 3 months worth of attending to their needs. It's not enough. I want to give more. I want to show my appreciation more. Remember, this merchant still hasn't comprehended the Dharma, but yet he thought giving 3 months consecutively was not enough to offer to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. So he thought, I want to go abroad. I want to set sail. I want to go to a different country, sell all my merchandise, and earn wealth, a lot of wealth, for nothing more than to provide the Mahasangha, the Buddha and the Mahasangha, for at least 5 years. Not to fulfill any petty fantasies, but instead for a much more worthy cause. Now think about it. He was a merchant who wanted to sell all his stuff, not to buy a bigger house, not to buy jewelry, gold, land, nothing. Not to buy the best, the fastest horse, none of it. To be honest, he didn't go abroad just to buy a t-shirt or a shirt or a piece of clothing, none of that. He went abroad completely to earn money to give to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. And so the very next day, he packed his bags, went to the ship, loaded it with as much as he possibly could, and he set sail to a country far, far away. You see, it took this merchant around 6 months to settle into this new country. But after he settled, it didn't take him long to sell all of his merchandise. It didn't take him long to accrue a ton of wealth. He was one man with one aim, and he kept selling and selling, trading, negotiating with others until he was satisfied. And so, after the end of his career in this new country, he went and set sail to go back to his home country. You see, he spent about a year abroad. That's it, just a year, maybe less than that. And so after he docked, he got off his ship, loaded his carts, his many carts and carriages, and his trail, set forth to go home. You see, on the way to Shemavati, he saw a man. This man was familiar. He had seen him in town here and there, but didn't know who he was. So he got off his carriage, and he went to this man and asked him, "Good evening. Sir, can you tell me how is the city, Shemavati?" And the man replied saying, "Ah, right, you're that merchant who went abroad. Nothing much has changed, just a bit, just here and there. The king has done this and this and this," and he started to give a small update on what's happening in the town. And so after that, the merchant asked, "My good sir, what about the Buddha? Where's the Buddha? Because I want to give him some alms. Can you tell me where he is residing in this current moment?" At that moment, the other man's expression, his facial expressions drooped. This man was now looking down. This merchant could see there was something wrong, and so asked again, "Please, tell me, where's the Buddha? I want to give him alms. I want to talk to him about what I experienced. I want to talk with him." He couldn't meet the man's gaze. The man won't look him straight in the eyes, avoiding his eye contact. The merchant started to understand that there was something really wrong. "Sir, please tell me where the Buddha is. I'll give you anything. Please tell me." The man mumbled, "The Buddha has passed away." No sooner than he heard this shocking news, he collapsed, fainted on the spot. Now think about it. The merchant, just hearing the Buddha has passed away, fainted on the spot. Now think about how this merchant is now feeling towards his Buddha. This bond between them is a very, very strong bond. Just remember, this merchant still hasn't understood the Dharma yet. Now this man, having seen this merchant collapse on the floor, didn't know what to do. So with some help, he took this man under the shade of a tree and waited there until this man regained his conscience. So in the moment this merchant regained his conscience, he sat straight back up, didn't understand what went wrong. He could almost hear in the back of his head that he heard that the Buddha had passed away. He had an ache, a deep ache in his heart, but he had some hope. And so he asked, "Sir, the Buddha has passed away. Okay, what about his chief disciples? What about the Mahasangha? What are they? Can you tell me? I would like to offer my alms to them as well, please." Again, the man couldn't say a word. It's almost like he went mute that very moment. So the merchant asked again, "Please, sir, tell me, where is the Mahasangha? What's happened to them as well?" All of the Mahasangha. Just after 7 days of the Buddha's parinibbana, after the Buddha's passing away, due to various causes, all of the Mahasangha, all the Sotapannas, all the Arahants, everyone with attainments passed away. Now this merchant almost felt like someone has stabbed him. The Mahasangha has also passed away. Now his chances of escaping suffering has disappeared completely. Not a single chance. The Buddha's gone. His disciples are gone. No one. And so with a heavy heart, this merchant got back onto his feet, went with his head swinging low onto this cart, onto his carriage, and made his way slowly home. You see, the very next day, when he woke up, the first place he wanted to go was, where is the pagoda? Where is the pagoda that holds the Buddha's relics? So he went to town and asked for directions. And as soon as he went into this monastery, into this temple, he saw the pagoda. And instantly, an applause came straight from the heart. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. But after that, looking at it, he felt there was something wrong. He felt that there was something not right about this pagoda. He felt like it was too small, almost like compressing infinity and compressing it into a small cube, a small room. And so he thought, no, the Buddha has passed away. I went abroad for about a year and accumulated a vast amount of wealth to give to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. So it looks like I will be offering to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. I want to renovate this pagoda. I want to make it bigger. I want to make it better. I want to make the greatest offering to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. Now to do that, he had to get permission. So Shemavati was ruled by the king, but the king had a government of Brahmins, or Brahmins from various religions as well. And so this merchant went to these Brahmins and seeked for their permission to renovate this monastery, this temple. You see, these Brahmins, they were very jealous. They told this merchant, "Son, before the Buddha, before this so-called Buddha came and started preaching this Dharma in inverted commas, before all of that, we used to preach the Dharma. And the Buddha stole what was ours, stole all of the people. And so we were left with nothing. But now the Buddha's gone, we are still here. Our teaching is still here. You can still offer things to us, and we'll be happy to accept it." You see, these Brahmins were so jealous of the Buddha that when the Buddha appeared, no one, hardly anyone, offered them anything. They used to be the talk of the town. Citizens would fight over whose teaching was correct. But now they're being treated like dogs. But because of the passing away of the Buddha, they now have the spotlight. Or so they thought. But the merchant thought about this and said, "No. I'm sorry, Brahmins, but you're not worthy of this offering." Now you could think that these Brahmins were very offended, but they can't force this merchant to offer things, right? And anyway, these Brahmins had a lot of power. This merchant knew that he couldn't go against the words of the Brahmins. If he does, these Brahmins will attack, will use their power over the people to do harm, not only to him, but the temple itself, and accumulate a lot of bad karma. So he thought, no, I'm going to have to get permission from higher up. And so he went straight to His Majesty, the king. So his merchant went to this king and said, Your Majesty, I would like to renovate this monastery. I would like to renovate this pagoda. I would like to make it bigger and better. I would like to do something like this and this and this, and start to list out what he would like to do. And this king was also very religious, was also a follower of the Buddha. And so this king thought, you know what? I would like to also be of benefit. I would like to also accumulate merit. And so the king gave 1,000 soldiers and the commander of his royal battalion. Think about it. The commander of the royal battalion and 1,000 soldiers. And these 1,000 soldiers circled around the pagoda, not letting anyone do anything against it. And the king sent out a messenger to spread the news that if someone was to put a hand on the pagoda out of hatred, out of means to destroy, to sabotage, they will be severely punished. So, having the money, having the protection, having the power, this merchant started to build and build and build, design and create. So within a few months, all the plans have been set. You can imagine people laying out bricks or wooden scaffolding or whatever they used. And this commander went to this merchant and said, Merchant, I have some errands I have to run. I'll be absent for about a month or maybe 3, but I'll be back. And as there was no trouble from anyone in the towns, no troubles from the Brahmins, the merchant said, okay, commander, go and run your errands, but come back. So after making his promise, this commander left. And in exactly 3 months on the dot, we're talking about the army here, right? They're on time. So if he said 3 months, it was exactly 3 months. Just at the 3rd month ended, the commander came back to the place of construction. But he looked around and he checked if he was in the right place twice. Because about a few months ago, on the floor there was bricks, scaffolding and whatever they used. Mud, clay, whatever. But now, none of that's there. He was confused. Am I in the right place? He had checked not once but twice, 3 times if he was in the right place. And finally he understood. Yes, this is the place. This is the place where the merchant was building, but I can't see construction. But what he could see was gardens, flower gardens, filled with various colors. Blues, oranges, reds, whites, every single color. He could see ponds filled with gem-like water that glistened in the sun. And on this water, lotuses, lilies, spreading their scent all around. There were tapestries, drawings, monuments, statues, and a pandal showing the birth, the enlightenment, the first sermon, and the passing of the Buddha. Or a pandal which the Sri Lankans would know as Torang. Massive ones, filled with beautiful art. Statues coated with gold, which glisten in the sunlight. Now this commander could tell everything was beautifully planned out. He could see that the merchant has planned it so well that flowers were planted so the prevailing wind would carry its scent over the pagoda. And in the next season, the prevailing wind would do the same thing. So constantly, the flowers, scents of beautiful flowers, fragrant flowers would cover the pagoda. And every single penny, every single cent has been used and not wasted. Servants were paid or given money to use to give Buddha Puja every single day. Servants were paid to sweep the floors, to clean. At one point, the general thought that he might have even died and went into heaven, because the whole place looked like a heavenly place. This guard was surprised. Not just surprised, he was awestruck. His brain couldn't compute everything. But there was one thing that he couldn't understand. This guard, this commander, went straight to this merchant and asked, Merchant, I don't understand. Please explain to me. Why would you do such a thing? Build such a heavenly place. A place just like heaven. What are you expecting from all this? What is it you're expecting? The merchant replied, saying, I did all of this to show my gratitude to the Buddha, to show my gratitude to the Mahasangha. And may, by the power of all the merits I have done in this massive offering of this monastery, may I become a Buddha in the future sasana. The general, having heard this, that this merchant did all of this not for personal gain, but to show his gratitude from deep down in his heart, he applauded. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And he said, and may I, when you become a Buddha, may I be able to listen to your Dharma, and may I be able to attain the supreme bliss in Nibbana. And the Buddha said, monks, I was that merchant. And that commander, the commander of the Royal Battalion, was the Venerable Dhammaruchi. That is one reason that I said, long time no see. But the Buddha continued. Going on to the next time, these two people, the Buddha and the Venerable Dhammaruchi, met many, many eons ago. At the time of the Buddha, Kagusada lived a very, very rich merchant. This merchant was married and had a son. His father was very religious, always invited the Buddha, the Mahasangha, to come into his house and preach the Dharma and advise them about how they should spend their future. But this father used to go out very often to do business abroad. He would spend months, maybe years on end to do business. You see, this son they had soon came of age and was very handsome, had a very stock build, very strong. But his mother started to feel incestuous towards him. She had to set out a plan to get her son to do what she wants. And so she befriended their neighbor, just so she can fulfill her desires. And so this friend started implanting views, ideas, and soon the mother was able to fulfill her desire. And so soon the father came back after many months. But the mother now no longer felt any affection towards her husband, and so told her son to go and murder his father. Now, look at this. The son knows no better. His own mother, after fulfilling her desires, told him to murder his father. And so, when the father was asleep, his own son killed him. Now imagine that. Soon, the news spread about the activities that went along in this household, about how the son had murdered his own father. They were shamed. People wouldn't even look at them. Soon, they were exiled from the village. And so the son and the mother had to find a new home. Soon after searching for a very long time, they found a small house. It wasn't big like the one they had, but it was just about enough. But the mother still continued to fulfill her desires. But one day, the son was looking outside the window and saw a monk approaching. Now, as a habit, he ushered this monk into his house and sat him down and gave him some food to eat and sat down to listen to his son. But you see, the moment the mother saw the monk, recognized this monk knew who they were. This Arahat monk knew who they were. And she knew if they let him escape, he will spread, he will tell everyone, and they will no longer be able to face society again. And so, by the end of the discourse, the mother told her son to murder this Arahat. So right now, this child has done two of the heinous acts. These acts, if you do, you will be destined destined to go to the worst hell. So now the father's gone, this Arahat is gone. But you see, this mother's desire started to extend. And so this mother fell in love with another man. And throughout that jealousy, the hatred he felt, the son, you guessed it, murdered his own mother and her partner. So this person has done matricide, patricide, and has murdered an Arhat. Now imagine what happened when the news spread. When people started talking, started gossiping about this house who had murdered, this boy who had murdered his two parents and an Arhat. He should be ashamed of himself. You can imagine people scolding him, shouting insults from the outside. Soon he couldn't handle it. He knew that he had to do something and thought, I have no other option. But the view came into his head. Wait, what about ordaining? And so he left everything behind and decided to go to a monastery and ask permission to ordain. So he went to this first monastery and he went to the Nayaka, or the head monk, worshipped him and asked, Venerable sir, please, I'd like to ordain. Please, can I ordain? This monk replied saying, of course you can ordain, but you have to get permission first from your mother and your father. Now this boy's eyes was wide in shock and said, Venerable sir, you see, I murdered my mother. I murdered my father. I can't get their permission. At that moment, the monk said, no, sorry. You have killed your parents and that means you aren't able to attain Nibbana. So there's no point of you ordaining. Please leave. And so this young man, disheartened, goes to the next monastery and asks, Venerable sir, can I please ordain? Again, when they asked for permission, he said, I killed my mother and father. No, go. One other one. He went from one monastery to the next, to the next, to the next. Soon, it came to the point where he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it anymore. So he went to the next monastery, asked for permission. Again, no, due to the anger that he had bubbling inside of him. He went straight to a fire, took a torch. When I mean torch, I don't mean those electric torches. I mean a torch that has fire. And burnt the whole monastery to ash, taking with it everyone who lived inside. Because in history, right, they didn't have concrete, they didn't have cement, all they had was wood. And wood burns. That killed hundreds of monks, hundreds of Sotapannas, hundreds of Arahants. He went to the next temple. Again, same thing. No, you can't. Patricide, you can't. No point. Again, he was set fire to the next one. Next one, and the next one, and the next one. In turn, killing thousands of monks. Thousands. Including Arahats, including Anagams, including Sotapannas, including the innocent. What can you do? But to save him, there was one temple, which didn't believe that they can attain Nibbana in that life. Instead thought that they'll be able to do it some day in the future. And so this young man went to this monastery and asked, can I please ordain? You can imagine after this man started burning at least 5 monasteries. His name was famous. I mean famous, in a bad way. People used to hate him. People used to not go anywhere near him. He was crazy. He's murdered hundreds of Arahats. You can imagine mothers trying to avoid their child even looking at him. But now he's at this monastery. And the monk at the monastery, also known as the Bodhisattva, as a Buddha aspirant. So the Bodhisattva thought, if I don't ordain him, he will continue to murder. So, to stop him from doing any more harm, I accept. Son, you can ordain here. And so this man was so happy to hear, yes, you can ordain here. And so when he ordained, the Bodhisattva didn't precept him. Didn't give him the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts, none of that. This Bodhisattva didn't even give him anything, but told him to do one thing. He told this young man to do one thing. Keep chanting Namo Buddhaya. When you're meditating, chant Namo Buddhaya. If you remember last week, it was praise to the awakened one. And so this Bodhisattva said to this young man, just say Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Praise to the awakened one, praise to the awakened one, praise to the awakened one, until you die. And so the young monk, The moment he ordained, he started, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, contemplating about the infinite virtues of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, chanted Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, until his very last breath. Now think about it. This person, this young man, cured his father, cured his mother, and cured that one Arahat who kept coming to his house. But what about all the others? All the monasteries it burned down, bringing down all the Arahats and Sotapannas and anyone with attainments with it. He had accumulated a very, very dangerous, one of the heinous acts. And so this man started chanting Namo Buddha into his last breath. And at the time of the Buddha Gautama, he finally gets to meet the Buddha and say Namo Buddha, truly knowing that he's become an Arahat. He'd become an Arahat. He had done so much, so many bad things, burned in hell in the four great hells for an uncountable amount of time. And yet, his last life, he became an Arahat. So, that was why they conversed saying, long time no see. It's been a long time. So that was the second part of the story about the Venerable Dhammaruchi. So, then let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits we've all acquired by making reference to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirth, listening to the Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha, and passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend the Dharma. Let's also take more transfer merits we all acquired to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to no path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget among them will be the monks and nuns resident in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by his side so thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the Guru Saranansa and all the monks present in the monastery as well as Anagarikas, Agarikas attached to the monastery. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who made great efforts to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be that by translating these sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May through the power of these merits, if any have been born in the love plane, may they redeem themselves in born in the blessed plane. May through the power of these merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill their meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble before path and taste supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer merits if we're acquired to our devotees, friends in the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who contribute to the construction of the monastery, those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, arms, robes, medicine, as well as those who pass on the know-how, extend their well wishes. May the power of these merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill their meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, and all those who help us, support us, assist us in any way, shape, or form. By the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical or mental ailments. May they overcome their obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill their meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to Devas, Brahmins, spirits, demons, Pranams, Sakradevas, as well as numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddhasasana. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill their meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all those who have been friends, families, acquaintances in this infinitely long journey to Sanasara, and to those who have helped us, support, assist us in any way they could. Let's take a moment to transfer these merits. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those lost their lives in war be their friend or foe, rejoicing in the merits required today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in the long journey to Sanasara. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to them. May through the power of these merits, if any have been born in the willful pain, may they redeem themselves in born in the willful pain. May through the power of the merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, let us all resolve, may the power of the blessings of all the merits we acquired the other day, we be able to witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of Arahats in this blessed land. And finally, may through the power of all the merits required today, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become an Arahat Mahin in this very life, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We'll now conclude that. May the blessing of Lord Shiva Jambi, if you will.